Welcome to this short demo on how to use Apache Spark from the command line. This is part of the Apache Spark training from CERN at sparktraining.web.cern.ch, and the repo with the code that we'll be discussing here is on GitHub at cerndb/sparktraining. This is the content of the repo. We are interested in the code directory where we have an example with Python and one with Scala. So we start with the one with Scala. It's a simple test project that you can also use as a skeleton to build your own projects if you want to. We have this following structure. So we're using SBT as a package manager for Scala. So build.sbt contains the information on how to build the project. So we just have Spark SQL as a dependency. Then the actual source is under src. So we just build an object called test Spark Scala with a method main, and there we first create a Spark session with no configuration parameters. This can be added as a Spark submit option, and then a simple SQL that we've seen in the course. This prints the results of the feedbacks test. To run this, we'll be using Spark submit. So once we build the jar, we'll use Spark submit. Then we specify the class, that is this object that we just defined here. And then we'll have the path of the jar that we build with this code. It's as simple as that. So without further ado, let's build. Clean package. So we're using SBT, which is a typical package manager for Scala, as I mentioned. Okay, the build is quite fast as the program is very small. So for running, we want to run the Spark submit. For this, we need to go to a Spark home. So I have it in this machine. I'll use the latest Spark version as I record this. So over here, and it's just a matter of copying this. As for the path, we need to Spark training. Then we have code, Scala, and it's built into target. And then it's Scala 212, and then test Spark Scala. So this is the jar that we just built, and we put it, and then we specify the class that we want to run. Spark submit will send this. It's possible to run this on all the execution modes of Spark. So it can be local mode that we're using here, but it could also be Yarn or Kubernetes, and we can specify many configuration parameters. Here we just use everything default, as is a very simple program. So we have some verbose logging that we can ignore for the moment, and then the actual program is run. So with this SQL that prints the feedbacks result. So it's all quite simple, and we can move back to our repo, and then we go back to the Python example this time. Python is a little bit simpler in this case compared to the Scala version. We just have one Python file. You'll recognize here the same elements that I've shown before. So creation of the Spark session, and then a Spark SQL that prints out the feedbacks example. Okay, the running is going to be very similar to what we had before. So we go to our Spark home. Okay. So again, we want to use Spark submit, and then we just specify the Python that we want to run. Spark training. And then it's code, Python, and the feedbacks example. So this time there is no compilation. We just give to Spark submit our Python, and it will run the Python, and we see similar verbose output and then the fizzbuzz result. So no compilation this time. Also, this time again, we just ran Spark submit and then Python. We could have many options, including specifying that we want to run on Yarn or on Kubernetes, and many configuration options like the amount of memory for the executors, etc. But this is a simple example. I just wanted to show you how to run these commands. Of course, you need to have a Spark home where you can run this. Okay, this concludes this short demo. Enjoy running Spark from the command line.